The knife glinted under the flickering neon sign outside the convenience store. Zara Okon's breath caught in her throat as the man's hand shot toward her purse, his face twisted with desperation and rage. She stumbled backward, her free hand instinctively covering the small swell of her belly. 5 months pregnant, alone on a Seoul street at midnight, and now this. "Please," she whispered in broken Korean, "please don't." The attacker lunged, time slowed, then a shadow moved with lethal precision. A tall figure materialized from nowhere, intercepting the knife mid-arc with a blocking motion so swift Zara barely registered it. The would-be robber hit the pavement hard, disarmed and pinned before he could scream. 2 more men appeared, dressed in dark suits, hauling the attacker away into a waiting black car. The entire encounter lasted maybe 10 seconds. Zara's legs gave out. Strong hands caught her before she hit the ground. "Are you injured?" The voice was deep, controlled, speaking perfect English with a Korean accent. "The baby?" She looked up into the face of her rescuer, sharp jawline, intense dark eyes that scanned her with clinical efficiency, expensive suit that screamed power and danger. He was maybe 35, radiating the kind of authority that made people obey without question. "I'm okay," Zara managed, though her hands were shaking violently. "Thank you, I just—" Her phone slipped from her trembling fingers, clattering onto the wet pavement. The screen illuminated, showing her last sent message. A photo, her baby bump, sent to the wrong contact 20 minutes ago. The man's eyes flicked to the phone, then back to her face. Recognition dawned slowly, transforming his expression from professional concern to something far more complicated. "You're Zara Okon," he said quietly. It wasn't a question. Her blood turned to ice. "How do you know my name?" "Because you sent me a photo tonight, and I told you to bring her to me." Before I tell you what happens next, hit that like button and drop a comment telling me which country you're watching from. Because what this dangerous stranger does when he takes her home will leave you speechless. 4 hours earlier, Zara had been standing in her cramped Seoul apartment, exhausted down to her bones. 14-hour shifts were becoming impossible to survive. Morning at the boutique, evening doing freelance design work, then covering someone's shift because the bills never stopped coming, and neither could she. Her sister's voice message had been bright and demanding. "Girl, you promised me a bump update today. Don't make me book a flight to Korea just to see my niece growing. Send me that photo now." Zara had smiled despite the exhaustion. Amara always knew when to check in, always sensed when the loneliness was crushing her sister from across continents and oceans. She'd shuffled to the bathroom, lifted her oversized shirt to reveal the curve that held all her hopes and fears, and forced a smile. Not the real exhausted grimace, but the reassuring one that said everything was fine when nothing was. Click. Her vision had been blurry from fatigue as she scrolled through contacts. Her thumb moved automatically toward Amara, big sis. She hit send. Then her world stopped. The name on the screen made her heart seize. Kang Junho, emergency deliveries. No. She'd frantically tried to delete it, but the read notification appeared instantly, mocking her panic. The boutique owner had added supplier contacts months ago. Emergency deliveries meant fabric vendors, business connections, nothing personal. 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Then 4 words in English, cold and absolute. "Bring her to me." Zara had dropped the phone like it burned her. Who was this man? What did he want? Was this some kind of threat? She'd paced her tiny apartment for hours, terror building with each passing minute. Finally, she'd decided to go out for air, to clear her head, to figure out what to do. That's when the attack happened. And now she stood face to face with the mysterious stranger whose 4 words had haunted her all evening. "My car is here," Kang Junho said, gesturing to a sleek black vehicle that had materialized at the curb. "You shouldn't be on these streets alone at this hour, especially not in your condition." "I'm not getting in a car with a stranger," Zara said, trying to sound firm despite her shaking voice. The man who just tried to rob you is part of a gang that targets vulnerable women in this district. They'll have spotted you. They know you're pregnant and alone. They'll try again." His eyes were hard, but not unkind. "I'm offering protection, not harm." "Why would you protect me? You don't know me." Something flickered across his face. Old pain, carefully hidden. "No, but I know what it looks like when someone needs help and has nowhere to turn." A police siren wailed in the distance. Zara's feet throbbed. Her head spun from adrenaline and exhaustion. Every instinct screamed danger, but somehow, looking into this stranger's eyes, she saw something that terrified her more than his power. Genuine concern. "Just take me home," she whispered. "Please." The ride through Seoul's nighttime streets was silent except for the soft hum of the engine. Zara gave her address, then pressed herself against the passenger door, maintaining maximum distance. Junho didn't try to speak, didn't invade her space, just drove with focused precision. When they arrived at her building, he parked but didn't move to get out. "The photo you sent," he began carefully. "It was an accident?" "Yes, I meant to send it to my sister in Nigeria." He nodded slowly. "And the father of your child?" The question hit like a physical blow. Zara's throat tightened. "Gone. Left when he found out I was pregnant. Disconnected his number, disappeared completely." Junho's jaw clenched. "I see. Why did you tell me to bring her to you?" Zara forced herself to ask. "What did that mean?" For a long moment, he stared through the windshield at nothing. When he spoke, his voice was rough with emotion he was clearly unaccustomed to showing. 7 years ago, my sister was pregnant, unmarried, scared. She needed help, and I was too busy with business crises to prioritize her. I told her to wait, that I'd handle it soon." He paused, swallowing hard. "She went into labor alone, complications during delivery. By the time I got to the hospital, she was gone. Her baby boy lived 3 days. Zara's hand flew to her mouth. "I'm so sorry. When I saw your photo tonight, exhausted and alone at midnight, I saw her. That same fear poorly hidden behind a brave smile." His eyes finally met hers, dark and haunted. "My response was instinct, not a threat. An urgency. A second chance I don't deserve." The raw honesty in his words pierced through Zara's defenses. This dangerous stranger who'd just saved her life was himself broken, carrying guilt that had shaped 7 years of his existence. "I don't need saving," she said softly. "Everyone needs someone," he replied. "The question is whether pride lets us accept help when it's offered." He pulled a business card from his jacket, pressed it into her hand. "My name is Kang Junho. I run a private security company. If you need anything, call me. No obligations, no expectations, just help if you want it." Zara took the card with trembling fingers, then climbed out of the car. She made it halfway to her building's entrance before stopping, turning back. "Thank you," she called. "For tonight. For not being what I feared." He nodded once, and she could have sworn she saw the ghost of a smile. Then the car pulled away, taillights disappearing into Seoul's midnight maze. Inside her apartment, Zara collapsed onto her worn couch, hand pressed to her belly where the baby was kicking gently. "What just happened, little one?" she whispered. "Who is he really?" Across the city, in a penthouse overlooking the Han River, Junho stood at floor-to-ceiling windows, staring at Zara's photo on his phone. At 35, he commanded an empire built on protection and security, operating in the gray spaces between legal and necessary. People called his organization the Janmu Group, whispers labeled them mafia, though the reality was more nuanced. He'd taken over from his father at 28, proving himself ruthless enough to handle threats and diplomatic enough to avoid bloodshed. His reputation was iron, his word was law. But none of it had saved Hyeon. His sister's photograph sat on his private desk, her smile frozen at 30 forever. She'd been his protector when they were children, his conscience when he'd started down this dangerous path, gentle where he was hard, optimistic where he was cynical, When she'd gotten pregnant and terrified, he'd been managing a territorial dispute. "Hold on a little longer," he'd told her over the phone. "I'll make time soon, I promise." He'd made time for her funeral instead. Now, looking at Zara's photo, he saw his sister's face overlaid on this stranger's features. That same exhausted determination, that same quiet fear, that same loneliness of carrying life while feeling utterly alone. "I won't fail again," he whispered to Hyewan's memory, to the woman in the photo, to himself. "Not this time, I swear it." He had no idea their lives were about to collide in ways neither could predict or control. The next morning, Zara woke to find an envelope slipped under her door. Inside was cash, enough to cover 2 months' rent, and a handwritten note in precise English: "Not charity, insurance. The gang from last night may still be looking. This buys you time to stay safe. Please don't refuse. KJ." Her first instinct was anger. He was trying to control her life, making decisions without asking what she needed. Her second instinct, the one she hated admitting, was relief. 2 months of breathing room. 2 months without the crushing panic of eviction. She tucked the money into her drawer and tried to forget about Kang Junho. That lasted exactly 3 days. On Wednesday, she left work to find him waiting outside the boutique, leaning against that same black car. Several passers-by stared, recognizing power when they saw it. "Are you following me?" Zara demanded, marching up to him. "Protecting you," he corrected calmly. "The gang hasn't been caught yet. Until they are, I'm making sure you're safe." "I didn't ask for a bodyguard." "No, but you need one." His eyes swept the street with professional assessment. "Whether you accept it or not? This is crazy. You can't just insert yourself into my life because of one wrong photo and one attack." "Can I?" He straightened, and despite herself, Zara felt the full force of his presence. Not threatening, but absolute. "You're alone in a foreign country, pregnant, working yourself to exhaustion. Someone should care about that. So I do." "Why?" The question burst out of her. "Why me? Why this obsession with saving someone you don't even know?" His mask cracked for just a second, revealing the wounded man beneath. "Because I couldn't save her. Because every time I close my eyes, I see my sister's face and wonder what would have happened if someone had been there when I wasn't." His voice dropped to almost a whisper. "Let me be there, Zara, please." The raw need in his words shattered something in her chest. This wasn't about control. This was about redemption, about a man so broken by past failure that he'd latched onto her as his second chance. "1 week," she heard herself say. "You can check on me for 1 week, then we reassess." His relief was visible. 1 week, thank you." That evening, her phone rang. Unknown number. Against her better judgment, she answered. "Zara Oconee?" A woman's voice, speaking English with a Korean accent. "This is Seoul Central Hospital. We have your medical records flagged for high-risk pregnancy monitoring. Your next appointment is overdue. Can you come in tomorrow?" Panic spiked. "I can't afford—" "It's been covered by a private benefactor. All your prenatal care through delivery." Zara's hands went numb. She knew exactly who the benefactor was. She called Junho immediately. "What did you do?" "Ensured you and your daughter receive proper medical care." "You can't just pay for my life without asking?" "Would you have said yes if I asked?" His voice was calm, maddeningly reasonable. "That's not the point." "Then what is the point, Zara? That you'd rather struggle alone than accept help? That pride matters more than your baby's health?" The accusation stung because it was partly true. "I'm not your responsibility." "You're right. You're not my responsibility. But maybe I need to be responsible for someone. Maybe I need this more than you do." The honesty in those words stopped her cold. She stood in her tiny apartment, phone pressed to her ear, realizing that this strange, dangerous man was as desperate as she was, just for different reasons. "I'll go to the appointment," she said quietly. "But this doesn't mean—" "It doesn't mean anything except that you're getting the care you deserve. That's all." After she hung up, Zara sank onto her couch, hand on her belly. The baby kicked strongly, as if weighing in on the situation. "What do we do with him, little one?" she whispered. What do we do with a man who saves strangers because he couldn't save his sister? Across the city, Junho sat in his darkened office, staring at his sister's photograph. "Is this right, Haiwan?" he asked, the frozen smile. "Am I helping her or just trying to fix my own guilt?" The photograph offered no answers. It never did. But tomorrow, he would drive Zara to her appointment. And the day after, he would check that she ate properly. And the day after that, he would make sure she was safe. Because this time, he would show up. This time, he wouldn't fail, even if it cost him everything. The appointment went smoothly, too smoothly. Zara sat in the passenger seat of Junho's car afterward, documents from the hospital clutched in her hands, and felt the weight of obligation pressing against her chest. "The doctor says everything looks good," she said quietly. "Baby's healthy, growing right on schedule." "That's excellent news." Junho's hands were steady on the wheel, his profile unreadable. "You sat in the waiting room for 2 hours." "I had nowhere else to be." "You run a security empire. I'm sure you had somewhere to be." He glanced at her briefly. "Not anywhere more important than here." The simple statement shouldn't have affected her so deeply, but it did, because Marcus, the father of her child, had never once accompanied her to an appointment, had never asked how she felt, had taken his parents' $50,000 and vanished like smoke. "Are you hungry?" Junho asked, breaking into her thoughts. "Always. Pregnancy does that. What do you want? You wouldn't like it." A ghost of a smile touched his lips. "Let me be the judge of that." 20 minutes later, they sat in Mama Adeyemi's small Nigerian restaurant in Itaewon. The owner, a woman who'd known Zara since her university days, took one look at Junho and raised her eyebrows dramatically. "This one?" she asked in Yoruba, nodding toward Junho. "Just a friend," Zara replied in the same language, feeling heat rise to her cheeks. That's what they all say." Mama Adeyemi's knowing smile said she'd seen this story before. Zara ordered jollof rice with grilled chicken. Junho asked for the same, though his expression when the spicy dish arrived was carefully neutral. She watched him take his first bite, saw his eyes widen slightly, then water, then a desperate reach for his glass. She laughed, really laughed for the first time in months. "You hate it," she said, still giggling. "I don't hate it." He took another determined bite, swallowing with visible effort. "It's just very enthusiastic." "Enthusiastic rice, that's a new description." "Different isn't bad," he said, meeting her eyes. "It just takes adjustment." Something in the way he said it made Zara think he wasn't just talking about food. She found herself smiling at this powerful, dangerous man who was trying so hard to understand her world. Over the next 2 weeks, a strange rhythm developed. Junho would appear when she needed help carrying heavy fabric bolts. He'd text to ask if she'd eaten. He taught her Korean phrases beyond basic survival level. She taught him about Nigerian culture, laughing at his attempts to pronounce her full name correctly. "Zara," she corrected for the 10th time. "Not Zara." "Zara," he repeated, getting it almost right. "Better. You're learning." He was formal and controlled, but occasionally she'd catch glimpses of dry humor, careful kindness, and that deep sadness he kept locked away. She was starting to trust him, starting to lean on him, and that terrified her more than anything. Then everything shattered. Junho's younger brother, Min-jae, showed up at the cafe where they were having lunch. He was 30, handsome in a more openly charming way, with a smile that didn't reach his calculating eyes. "So you're Zara," Min-jae said in perfect English, sliding into their booth uninvited. "My brother's new charity project." "Min-jae." Junho's voice carried a sharp warning. "What?" "I'm curious about the woman who has my brother paying bills and playing taxi driver." His smile was cold. "Very convenient timing, that photo. Pregnant woman alone sends picture to wealthy businessman. Almost sounds planned." Zara's face burned. "Excuse me?" "I'm just saying, there are women who target men like my brother, successful, wealthy, with a known soft spot for lost causes." Min-jae's eyes raked over her dismissively. "It's almost textbook." "Enough." Junho's tone could have frozen fire. Leave. Now. Just protecting family, brother. Min-jae stood, but his parting glance at Zara dripped with contempt. We've dealt with gold diggers before. This one's just more creative. After he left, Zara sat frozen, his words echoing in her mind. Gold digger. Convenient. Planned. He's wrong, Junho said quietly. Is he? Zara's voice came out hollow. Because from where I'm sitting, it does look convenient. Poor pregnant foreigner, rich businessman with guilt issues. Maybe he's right to be suspicious. Zara, I need to go. She grabbed her bag, standing abruptly. Thank you for lunch. She didn't give him time to respond. Outside, she flagged a taxi and disappeared into Seoul's afternoon traffic, feeling like she was drowning. That night, standing outside her apartment fumbling for keys, a voice from her past stopped her heart. Zara. Marcus stood under the streetlight, looking exactly as she remembered. Handsome, apologetic, devastatingly familiar. Please, he said, hands raised in supplication, just give me 5 minutes. Everything Junho had made her feel, safe, seen, possibly worthy, crumbled in the face of this man who'd promised forever and delivered abandonment. What are you doing here? Her voice shook. I made a mistake. The biggest mistake of my life. He stepped closer, tears glistening in his eyes. I was scared, stupid, but I've had months to realize I threw away the best thing that ever happened to me. You, us, our baby. You left me. The words came out as a broken whisper. I know, and I'm so sorry. His voice cracked with emotion. But I'm here now. I'm ready. Let me fix this. Let me be the father I should have been from the beginning. Before she could think, before she could process, Marcus pulled her into his arms. And God help her, Zara cried against his shoulder, cried for the months of loneliness, for the fear, for the future she'd thought she'd lost. Across the street, hidden in shadow, Junho sat in his car watching. He'd come to apologize for Min-jae's cruelty. Instead, he saw Zara in another man's arms, saw the familiarity between them, the shared history. His chest tightened with something unfamiliar and unwelcome, jealousy, sharp as a blade. But beneath it, crushing certainty. He had no right to feel anything at all. She wasn't his, had never been his. He was just the stranger who'd inserted himself into her life because of his own damaged need for redemption. Junho started the car and drove away, forcing himself not to look back. She had a chance at the family she deserved. Who was he to interfere? Over the next week, Junho's absence felt like a wound. His sudden retreat seemed to confirm everything Min-jae had said. It had been pity all along. Now that Marcus was back, Junho's charitable obligation was fulfilled. Marcus, meanwhile, was everywhere, supportive, attentive, saying all the right things. He talked about moving in together, about marriage, about giving their baby a real family. On paper, it was everything Zara should want. But late at night, when she couldn't sleep, she thought about Junho. The way he'd asked about her day, the terrible jollof rice he'd pretended to like, the gentleness in his eyes when he'd looked at her belly. She felt like she was losing something she'd never really had. 8 days into Junho's silence, the baby kicked harder than ever before. Zara pressed her hand to the spot, feeling the flutter of tiny limbs, and without thinking, called him. Hello. His voice was formal, distant. She's kicking, really hard this time. Silence. Then, that's good. It means she's healthy. Can you? Zara's voice broke slightly. Could you come? I know it's silly, but I'll be there in 20 minutes. He arrived in 15. In her small apartment, with Marcus's texts lighting up her phone in the other room, Junho knelt beside where Zara sat on the couch. She guided his hand to her belly. They waited in charged silence. There, a strong kick against his palm. Junho's breath caught audibly. His eyes met Zara's, and in that moment, something passed between them that neither could name. The baby moved again, seeming to push toward his touch. She likes you, Zara whispered. His voice was rough with emotion. I should go. Why did you stay away? Because you have a chance at the family you deserve. With him. With your baby's father. What if I don't want that? Their eyes held. Junho's hand remained on her belly, the baby quiet now, as if listening. What do you want, Zara? The question hung between them, enormous and impossible. Before she could answer, he stood abruptly, putting distance between them. I shouldn't be here, not like this, not when you're trying to figure things out with him. He left, and Zara sat alone, hand pressed to where his had been, feeling the terrifying realization blooming in her chest. She was falling in love with the wrong man at the worst possible time, and judging by the look in his eyes, he was falling too. 2 nights later, everything exploded. Marcus had chosen an upscale restaurant, the kind with soft lighting and prices that made Zara anxious. He ordered wine for himself, sparkling water for her, and kept checking his phone nervously. Marcus, what's going on? He pulled out a small velvet box, opening it to reveal a modest diamond ring. Marry me, Zara. Let me give our daughter my name. Let me give you both the life you deserve. She stared at the ring, feeling nothing. No joy, no relief. Just hollow uncertainty. This is sudden. I need time to think. Time for what? To choose between me and him? Marcus's charm cracked, revealing something uglier underneath. That Korean guy, I know he's been around. Don't be stupid, Zara. He's playing hero because it makes him feel good. I'm offering real commitment. The pressure in his words crystallized something in Zara's mind. I need to go. She stood, grabbing her bag. Zara, I'll call you. Outside, rain had started. Zara walked 3 blocks toward her apartment, Marcus's words chasing her. When she turned the corner, she stopped dead. Junho sat on the steps outside her building, rain soaking his expensive suit, head in his hands. He looked up when she approached, and the raw anguish in his face stole her breath. How long have you been here? She asked. 3 hours. He stood slowly. I needed to tell you something about Marcus. You what? I investigated him. I shouldn't have, but I did. The words came out in a rush. His parents paid him $50,000 to leave you. Wire transfer, 2 days after you told him you were pregnant. He burned through it in 6 weeks on gambling debts. They cut him off last month. He's not back because he loves you, Zara. He's desperate. You investigated him? Her voice went flat with fury. You had no right. I know, but... Stop! She held up a hand, tears burning. Do you hear yourself? Making decisions about what I should know, who I should trust. I'm so tired of everyone trying to control my life. The words exploded out of her. Marcus sees me as his ticket back to his family's money. You see me as your second chance to fix past mistakes. Why can't someone just see me? The question broke something in Junho's carefully maintained control. You want to know why I really got involved? He sank back onto the wet steps, and Zara found herself sitting beside him. At first, yes, you were my second chance. When I saw that photo, I saw Heewon, my sister. Rain fell harder, but neither moved. She was pregnant, unmarried, scared. She needed help, and I promised I'd be there. But I was in the middle of a business crisis, and I told myself it could wait. His voice cracked. She went into labor alone. Complications, emergency surgery. By the time I got to the hospital, she was gone. My nephew died 3 days later, and I stood over 2 graves realizing all my power meant nothing. Zara's hand found his, cold and trembling. So yes, he continued. When I saw you, I saw my chance to do it right this time. But somewhere along the way, it stopped being about her. He turned to face her fully, rain streaming down his face. It became about you, about the way you laugh at my terrible Korean pronunciation, about your stubborn pride, about how brave you are, doing this alone. Junho, I'm falling in love with you, Zara. Not because you're pregnant, not because you need saving, because you're you, and I know I have no right. I know investigating Marcus proves I'm controlling, but I couldn't. She kissed him, sudden and desperate, tasting rain and tears and truth. When they broke apart, both breathing hard, Zara whispered. "I've been so scared of needing someone that I couldn't see someone actually wanting to be needed." "We fit," he breathed. "We do." She told him about the proposal, about Marcus's pressure. With each word, Junho's jaw clenched tighter. "What do you want to do?" he asked carefully. "I want—" "Zara." They both turned. Marcus stood at the end of the street, clearly drunk, stumbling toward them. "There you are. With him. I knew it." His words slurred together. "Tell him, Zara. Tell him you said yes." Junho stood, placing himself between Marcus and Zara. "You need to leave." "Leave? This is between me and my fiancé." Marcus lurched forward. "Tell him you said yes!" "I didn't say yes. I said I needed time." "Time with him?" Marcus laughed bitterly. "You trapped me with this pregnancy, and I was stupid enough to fall for it twice." "Trapped you?" Zara's voice turned to ice. "You begged me to keep this baby. You promised me forever. Then you took your parents' money and ran." Marcus went pale. "He told you. Of course he told you." Neighbors' lights flickered on. Someone called the police. "You're both perfect for each other," Marcus spat. "The gold digger and the control freak. That baby's a mistake, Zara, just like you." Police arrived, separating Marcus from them with practiced efficiency. As they took him away, his words echoed in the rain-soaked street. When the police car disappeared, Zara finally allowed herself to collapse. Junho caught her, holding her as she cried. "I've got you," he murmured. "I've got you both. And I'm not going anywhere." For the first time in months, surrounded by rain and chaos, Zara felt safe. The next morning, standing in Junho's penthouse with borrowed clothes and borrowed courage, Zara made a decision. "I choose you," she said simply. "Not because you saved me, not because you're trying to fix the past, but because when I think about my future, you're in it. You and me and our daughter." "Our daughter," he repeated, the words clearly meaning everything. "Yes, ours, if you want that." Instead of answering, he pulled her close and kissed her like a man who'd been given a second chance at life itself. 6 weeks later, at 7.5 months pregnant, Zara stood in a simple courthouse wearing a white dress that accommodated her growing belly. Junho stood beside her in a dark suit, holding her hand like it was the most precious thing in the world. No grand ceremony, no expensive wedding, just two people choosing each other against all odds. "I do," Zara said, her voice steady and sure. "I do," Junho echoed, slipping a simple gold band onto her finger. When the officiant pronounced them married, Junho kissed her gently, reverently, like she was made of something sacred. Mama Adeyemi threw them a small reception at her restaurant. Junho's father attended, his expression softening when he saw the way his son looked at his new wife. Even Minjae came, mumbling an awkward but genuine apology. "I was wrong about you," he told Zara quietly. "You make him happy. That's all that matters." 3 weeks later, at 38 weeks, Zara went into labor. It happened fast. Too fast. One moment she was folding baby clothes in their new apartment. The next moment, pain ripped through her abdomen with terrifying intensity. "Junho!" she screamed. He appeared instantly, phone already dialing emergency services, his face pale but focused. "I've got you. I'm here. I'm not leaving." In the ambulance, with contractions coming hard and fast, Zara gripped his hand so tightly she thought she might break his fingers. "I'm scared," she gasped. "I know, but you're the bravest person I've ever met. You can do this." At the hospital, complications arose. The baby's heart rate dropped dangerously during contractions. Blood pressure spiked. The doctor's grave expression said everything. "Emergency C-section, now." Terror flooded Zara's system. "Junho, I'm here. I'm right here." He stayed by her head as they prepped her for surgery, his hand holding hers, his eyes locked on hers. "You're not alone. You'll never be alone again." The moment of crisis came when they pulled the baby free. Terrible silence. No cry. The medical team worked frantically. Junho felt time stop, felt the ghost of his sister's death pressing against his chest. Not again. Please, not again. Then, a sound, small, wet, and utterly perfect. A cry pierced the air, angry and alive. Relief crashed through Junho so powerfully his knees buckled. Tears streamed down his face, silent and uncontrollable. They placed the tiny baby on Zara's chest. Junho leaned in, his own tears dripping onto their daughter's soft head. He reached out, touched her tiny hand. Miraculously, impossibly, the baby gripped his finger, holding on tight. "Healthy girl," the doctor announced, smiling. 3.1 kilograms, a perfect little fighter. Hours later, Zara slept fitfully, recovering. Junho sat beside the cot, the baby swaddled and sleeping soundly in his arms. His family arrived. His father, seeing his powerful son cradling a tiny infant with such devastating tenderness, felt something fracture in his chest. "This is my family," Junho said quietly, not looking up. "This is my daughter. Accept it or don't. I've made my choice." His father stepped closer, looking at the baby, then at his son. "I forbade your sister from being with the man she loved. I chose duty over her happiness. I've regretted it every day since her funeral." His voice roughened. "I don't want you repeating my mistakes." It was his blessing, his redemption. Minjae stepped forward awkwardly. "Brother, Zara, I was wrong. I'm sorry. If there's anything I can do for your family, please let me know." When the family finally left, Zara woke to find Junho still holding their daughter, his face transformed by wonder. "What should we name her?" Zara whispered. Junho looked at her, then at their baby. "Hyewon," he said softly. "After the woman who taught me how to love, even in her absence." Tears filled Zara's eyes. "Hyewon, it's perfect." 3 months later, their small apartment was unrecognizable. Vibrant prints covered the walls. Nigerian music played softly. The scent of baby powder mixed with Korean coffee and jollof spices. Domestic bliss was chaotic and joyful. Junho, who commanded thousands, proved hilariously useless at diaper changes. "It's like handling a bomb," he exclaimed, holding a clean diaper like it might explode. Zara laughed, the sound warm and full. "Focus, CEO, this is more important than any security contract." Their laughter filled the space that had once echoed with loneliness. One quiet morning, Junho brought burnt toast and surprisingly good eggs to where Zara sat feeding Hyewon. He set down the plate, then dropped to one knee beside the couch. "I know we already got married," he said, pulling out a small box. "But I never properly proposed, so—" He opened it, revealing an elegant diamond ring. "Zara, will you stay married to me? Will you keep choosing this messy, beautiful life we've built?" "Yes," she said, tears blurring her vision. "Every day? Yes." He slipped the ring onto her finger, and it felt like a promise renewed. Weeks later, they were walking through a park when they saw a woman sitting alone on a bench, heavily pregnant, staring at her phone with wide, scared eyes. She looked exhausted and utterly lost. Zara and Junho exchanged a look, an understanding passing between them instantly. They approached her with gentle smiles. "Are you all right?" Zara asked softly. "Is there anything we can help you with?" The woman looked up, and relief flooded her face at their kindness. They walked away minutes later, leaving her with Zara's contact information and the hope that strangers could become family. As they strolled away, Hyewon nestled in her stroller, both her tiny hands wrapped around her parents' fingers. Junho pulled out his phone. He looked at that original message one more time. "Bring her to me." But now, it meant something entirely different. Bring her to safety, to love, to home, to family. Sometimes wrong numbers lead to right people. Sometimes mistakes become miracles. Sometimes the scariest text message you ever receive becomes the first line of your greatest love story. Like this video and subscribe to our channel. Drop a comment telling us your favorite moment from Zara and Junho's incredible journey. And remember, the most beautiful destinations often begin with the wrong turn.